"Can I eat with you?" the homeless girl asked the rich man. What he said next made everyone cry. The sound of fancy silverware and quiet talking filled the beautiful outdoor area of Liarden, the city's most expensive restaurant. Crystal wine glasses sparkled in the evening light, and the air smelled like roasted lamb and truffle butter. At a corner table, Thomas Reed sat by himself, a man in his early 30s. Thomas wore a perfectly fitted suit, with the distant look of someone tired of luxury. Plates of fancy food sat untouched in front of him. Perfectly cooked scallops, freshly baked bread rolls, and a glass of white wine that caught the golden glow of the candles. He had everything: money, power, influence. But tonight, as he scrolled through endless work emails, he felt empty inside. Outside the iron gates of Liarden, Ela stood shaking from cold. The little black girl couldn't have been older than 7 years. Her torn, oversized dress hung on her thin body, and her tiny bare feet were covered with dirt. Her stomach hurt from hunger, but she tried to ignore it. She had been watching people eat for over an hour, hoping someone might give her leftover food when they left, but nobody even looked her way. A waiter carrying a tray of half-eaten food stopped to throw it in a trash can near the alley. Isla crept closer. "Stop right there, girl," the waiter yelled, shooing her away like a stray dog. "Don't you dare touch that. Dirty street kids don't belong here." Isla jumped back and hid behind a pillar, tears forming in her tired eyes, but her hunger was stronger than her fear. Through the open patio doors, she saw a man in a dark blue suit sitting alone at a corner table. In front of him were plates of untouched food, bread rolls, roasted chicken, and even a small chocolate dessert. Her mouth watered. "Just ask," she whispered to herself. "Just once." She gathered all her courage and walked barefoot across the stone tiles of the patio. Gasps spread through the restaurant. "Where did she come from?" whispered a woman wearing pearls. "Isn't security watching the entrance?" a man muttered. The head waiter walked forward quickly, his shiny shoes clicking with anger. "Little girl, you don't belong here. Leave right now." But before he could grab her arm, Isla stepped forward, her big brown eyes focused on Thomas. "Sir," she said with a shaking voice. Thomas looked up from his phone, surprised. The little girl's small, fragile figure seemed completely out of place against the black tablecloths and sparkling chandeliers. "Can I eat with you?" The waiter stopped moving. Silence fell over the patio. Thomas stared at her, his mind racing. "Please," Isla added softly, holding on to her torn dress. "I'm sorry for asking. I haven't eaten in 2 days." "Sir," the waiter said sharply, "do you want me to remove her?" Thomas didn't answer right away. His eyes were fixed on Isla's hollow cheeks, her trembling lips. Something inside him changed. Years ago, he had been a boy like her, hungry, dirty, invisible to everyone. He remembered standing outside bakeries, praying someone would give him a piece of bread. Nobody ever did. "Sir," the waiter pushed again. "Should I call security?" "No," Thomas said suddenly, his voice louder than he meant. Everyone turned to look at him. Thomas pushed his chair back and stood up. "Bring another plate," he said firmly. The waiter blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. The best you have, and make it fast." Isla's eyes went wide. "Really?" she whispered. "Yes. What's your name, sweetheart?" "Isla," she answered. Thomas knelt down so he was at her eye level. "Come on, Isla, sit with me." Gasps echoed around the patio. "Is he serious?" a woman whispered. "A millionaire eating with a beggar child." "This is disgraceful," muttered another man. Thomas ignored them all. He pulled out the chair next to him and gently patted the seat. "Sit down, honey. Tonight you're my guest." As Isla carefully climbed into the chair, Thomas turned to the waiter. "And bring warm bread first. She's freezing." The waiter hesitated, then hurried away, embarrassed. Thomas looked around at the other diners, their faces red with judgment and discomfort. "You're all staring," he said loudly. "Maybe you should ask yourselves why a little girl had to beg for food in the first place." The entire restaurant became silent. Ila's tiny hands wrapped around the warm bread roll when it came. Tears ran down her cheeks as she whispered, "Thank you, sir. I thought nobody cared." Thomas's throat tightened as he watched her take her first bite. For the first time in years, he felt something deep in his chest, a spark of warmth he didn't know he still had. The restaurant patio stayed quiet, the sound of forks hitting plates completely gone. Isla sat stiffly in the chair beside Thomas, her small hands holding a piece of warm bread. She stared at it for a moment, as if trying to believe it was real, before taking a careful bite. Tears rolled down her dirty cheeks as the soft dough melted in her mouth. "Slow down," Thomas said gently, pushing a glass of water toward her. "There's plenty. You don't need to hurry." Across the room, whispers spread. "Is he really letting her eat with him?" A man whispered. "This is ridiculous," a woman in pearls muttered, though her voice wavered. One older couple looked down, ashamed. The waiter returned with a plate piled high with roasted chicken, vegetables, and buttery mashed potatoes. He set it down in front of Isla and stepped back awkwardly, avoiding her eyes. "Eat as much as you want," Thomas said. "Nobody here will stop you." Isla hesitated. "But don't you want it?" Thomas shook his head. "I've already had my share. Tonight it's your turn." As she ate, Thomas leaned back in his chair, his thoughts spinning. He thought about his childhood, cold nights spent sleeping in subway tunnels, eating scraps from garbage cans. He had promised long ago never to look back. But now, looking at this little girl, he realized he hadn't escaped his past at all. He had only buried it. Isla wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "My mama used to make bread like this," she said softly, "before she went to heaven." Thomas's chest tightened. "What about your dad?" Isla's voice cracked. "He left after Mama died, said I was too much trouble, said someone else would take care of me." She stared down at her plate. "But nobody did." A sharp pain shot through Thomas's heart. He pushed his plate aside and reached for her small hand. "You are not too much trouble," he said firmly. "You're a child, and you deserve to be cared for, Isla." Around them, a waiter paused mid-step. A couple at a nearby table dabbed at their eyes. Even the stern-faced restaurant manager, who had come to confront Thomas, stopped in his tracks. Thomas looked up and spoke to the room. "She's 7 years old, 7, and she's been wandering these streets alone while the rest of us sit here enjoying fine wine and food we don't even finish." The silence deepened. "Look at her," he continued, his voice tight with emotion. "Do you know how much courage it takes for a child to walk into a place like this and ask for help?" Nobody spoke. A few guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats, guilt flashing across their faces. Thomas turned back to Isla and spoke so softly that only she could hear. "You don't have to beg anymore. Not ever again. I'm going to take care of you." Isla blinked up at him. "You mean you're not sending me away?" "Never," Thomas said, his voice breaking. "You're coming with me. We'll get you warm clothes, a safe place to sleep. And tomorrow, pancakes for breakfast." Isla let out a small sob and threw her tiny arms around his waist. "I'll be good. I promise I'll be good," she cried. Thomas hugged her tightly. "You already are, sweetheart. You don't have to prove anything." A quiet sniffle broke the stillness. The woman in pearls dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. A young waiter stepped back, visibly holding back tears. The room had been silenced, not by wealth, not by power, but by one man's simple act of kindness. Thomas stood, lifting Isla into his arms. "She deserves more than a meal," he said to nobody in particular. "She deserves a life." As he carried her out, other diners rose to their feet, not in protest, but in quiet respect. One man left $100 bill on Thomas's table with a note for her future. That night, as Thomas drove Isla home in his sleek black car, she curled up in the passenger seat, clutching a warm blanket. "Are you rich?" she asked softly. Thomas smiled faintly. "I thought I was. But tonight I finally feel like I've got something worth more than all the money in the world." Isla gave a sleepy smile. "You're the nicest person I've ever met." Tears pricked Thomas's eyes. "And you," he said gently, are the bravest little girl I've ever known. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.